Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. So about a year ago or so, I showed you guys how to build your own lithium ion flight packs out of just some random run-of-the-mill 18650 cells like these ones here. These are the Molicel P24, P26As. See, I can't even remember which ones they are. There's so many different varieties of 18650s out there. In that video, and I'll put a link to it up in the corner there, I talked about picking out the right cells and based on cost, capacity, and current capability of each of the cells. Plus we talked about things like nickel strips, solder braid, copper braid, things like that to kind of join the cells together. And I talked about something called a spot welder, and then I proceeded to tell you this. Soldering two 18650 cells is not a good idea. Getting these hot is the enemy of the battery packs. Don't solder these. Don't solder. Don't solder. Hey, you. Don't solder these. All right, I'm going to show you how to solder these things. And then we went ahead and did the thing we shouldn't have done. And, we soldered this whole pack together. And, this works just fine. But it's not the right way to do these things. Putting together one of these flight packs or anything like that, we really shouldn't be soldering to these 18650s. It's really bad for them. It's no good getting them hot. The solder sometimes doesn't stick very well. You do have to be pretty good at soldering and have to have a decent soldering iron as well. You really should be using a spot welder. I have one of these. This is a K-weld. This is very expensive. This is like a high-end home gamer kind of mid-range production style spot welder. I mean, this thing runs like about a little more than $300, and that makes this very cost prohibitive to the average FPV enthusiast to dabble in making their own packs. Now there are other spot welder solutions out there, and just recently I was contacted by this company here, and they wanted me to take a look at their compact spot welder / power bank setup thing they got. I figured, yeah, why not? Couldn't hurt. So 3GOA did send me this spot welder for review. I figured, why not? It would be a good middle ground for something between like the K-weld and then also taking the risk of soldering your packs. This thing clocks in about $65 depending on when you get it and where on Amazon. It is a power bank and a spot welder kind of all in one. It is a 7,500 milliamp power bank, so you do get double duty out of this thing. It can be a spot welder or you can charge your cell phone on it. But the battery pack part of it is not really what we're going to look at today. But anyways, let's take it over to the bench. We'll see what we get inside the box, and we'll do some welds with it. We'll see how it stacks up. All right, so here's a spot welder. Comes in a nice little box. We have two 8-gauge leads with some pretty fine tips on them. These are your spot welding leads. We're just gonna set this aside. It does come with a small bit of, I think this is 0.1 millimeter nickel strip. They do advertise this. It will do up to 0.2 millimeter nickel strip. I don't know if that means that it will do 0.2 or if it will do everything except for 0.2. We'll take a look. We'll try it. So I do have some 0.1 millimeter nickel strip. They say it's pure nickel strip. There are ways to test if it is pure or if it's just nickel plated. I have tested this and it tested fine. And then this didn't come with it, but this is some 0.2 millimeter nickel strip. I know it was in the box. I just put it in there so I wouldn't lose it. It does come with a USB A to C charging cable to charge the power bank. For some reason it has a file in it. Not sure why, but hey, there's a file. And then we got the spot welder itself. And if you're curious about the specs on it, all right, here we go. Yeah, output 650 amps max. Yeah, we'll see about that. And it says it will do nickel strips from 0.1 to 0.2 millimeter. So I have already gone through and charged this thing just so, we're going to work with a full pack. And to turn on, all we gotta do is hold this lower button down, and the tiny little, I believe it's an OLED screen. It does power up. It tells us the temp, 27 degrees science. And gear. Gear is the power output setting. It's kind of arbitrary. You just kind of push the up and down buttons to change the output setting. 8 is the most. 8 is the most powerful setting we have. And then delay, 2.5 seconds. That is how long from when the probes touch the cell, it delays before it actually initiates an arc. Some of the other spot welders use a foot pedal, or they use some sort of lever action to actuate the spot welder part of it. This one, it kind of does it automatically based off this delay. So we're going to leave it at, we're going to turn this thing up all the way at 8, and we're going to do a 2.5 second delay on it. I do have a old 18650 cell. This I scavenged out of a one-wheel XR battery pack. This thing is completely dead and inert. I have scraped the old material off of it, so I have removed the old material from it. So I'm not practicing the normal safety precautions that I would do, like having a fire extinguisher and a bucket of sand and all that stuff, and an escape route out of my room in case this were to touch off, because there's no angry pixies in this cell anymore. It is completely dead. I'm gonna go ahead and take our leads. We just kind of put them in the pokey bits there, and we should be good to go at this point. I'm actually gonna start at, we're gonna start at the low setting. We're gonna start at 1 and see what kind of weld we get on this 0.1 millimeter nickel strip. So we're just going to, I'll zoom in here for you guys. We're just gonna place our strip there. Gonna anchor it down with one lead here. And the other one, it's going to be a 0.2 second delay, and it will initiate the arc. And I felt it. You guys couldn't see it. It's pretty weak sauce on 0.1. And to kind of see if this is good enough, I'm going to pull back on the strip. And it should have left a chunk of strip on the cell itself, and it did not. You see the weld just kind of pulled out through the holes there. So let's go up to 4. Yeah, we'll go up to 4. We'll do another one. And you may see the leads jump here. Let me zoom out so you can see this. There's a lot of current going through these leads, so they may actually jump when it triggers. Here we go. That was a poor weld. All right, there we go. 3, 2, 1. There we go. You see a little bit of smoke come off of it. And this is half power. And still, we're getting those, we're still getting the same kind of pull off. Go ahead and max this out and see what we get. All right, that one actually looks pretty good. Not the best weld in the world. Let's try it again. And that is a very strong weld right there. Ideally, you would want a large chunk of the strip to stay on the cell. But depending on your application, if you're not doing something that is extremely rigorous, that's going to be bouncing around a lot or have a lot of flex to the pack, a weld at the 3 or 4 setting might be good enough. But you need to kind of figure that out for yourself. This is some 0.2 millimeter nickel strip. I have my doubts. Yeah, doesn't even stick. See if we can weld multiple times. Nope. definitely cannot do 0.2 millimeter nickel strip. That is a bummer. As far as I'm concerned, 0.2 is going to be the sweet spot for doing flight packs. Point 1 is no problemo, but you know, you can get away with 0.1. 0.1 can't carry all that much current. 0.2 is better, obviously. But yeah, unfortunately, that is not going to cut it. Well, I got it apart. I really wish I would have recorded it. I kind of just went at it when I was, you know, after I would barely weld a 0.1 millimeter strip. The casing's pretty nice. The enclosure's pretty well thought out. I do like the way this thing is built. They definitely did a good job building it. The enclosure is, anyways. But looking at the construction of the actual welder itself, this thing is powered off of, it's basically 1S for all my quad folk out there. Was this 2 3700 milliamp cells. So these look like 3700 milliamp cells. It's kind of hard to tell. It's a little smudged and squished. But they're wired in parallel with each other. So yeah, this is basically running off 4.2 volts. They're kind of rounding up to 5. So yeah, that kind of makes sense why it can barely weld 0.1 millimeter strips. Definitely not 2. But the construction's not great. Like, things are a little off kilter. Even where they soldered on the ports for the leads, you know, it's barely wet with solder. Barely. I did unfortunately break one of the buttons, get it out. My bad. It still works, but yeah, I don't think these pocket spot welders are probably going to. I mean, there's lots of them out there that are like this one, or at least look like it. I don't think they're going to. I don't think any of them are going to be any good, or at least not good enough. Pretty well secured in there. Really well secured in there. Lots of foam, lots of Celastic holding everything in place. And then it's all kind of pinched in place by like a rail system in this extruded aluminum housing. So all in all, like, the build isn't bad. It's just a bad design, unfortunately. I'm wondering if I could maybe juice this thing up with a little more power. Probably not, though. I'm guessing if I hook anything more than 5 volts to this thing, it'll probably catch on fire. Oh well. All right, so I figure it's only fair that I show you what a good spot weld looks like. So I am using my K-weld. I have it set to 30 joules, which is actually just a little bit on the light side. Sometimes I go all the way up to 50. And this is, again, that 0.2 millimeter nickel strip. And this is foot pedal activated, so there's no timer on it. It's just the foot pedal's on the ground. You know, that's where my feet are. Durr. And here we go. Watch the leads. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And where'd my pedal go? Here we go. And that is really well on there. And honestly, we can probably go up to about 50 for a really good weld. You can watch the lead jump here. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and there we go. Yeah, that is friggin' on there. You know, kind of what you want is like chunks of the material to end up staying on the cell and being kind of embedded in the substrate there. So you saw how much it took to get this 0.2 millimeter strip off of the cell. That is what we're looking for. This thing is delivering far more energy than the 3GOA1 can ever do. So unfortunately, I don't think I would recommend this spot welder unless you're okay with spot welding 0.1 millimeter nickel strips. So these 0.1 millimeter by 8 nickel strips should carry roughly about 3.5 to like 3.3 to 3.5 amps. Obviously, there's a lot of factors that figure into that length, and then you can also double them up. Unfortunately, this thing is going to kind of cap out at probably 0.15 millimeter nickel strip. I don't have any 0.15 millimeter nickel strip to try it out on, but the stick I got on 0.1 probably might work out on 0.15. I don't know, but unfortunately, this thing maxed out. 0.1 is about the most I think I would trust with this thing. Unfortunately, for the flight packs we make, 0.2, 2 layers of 0.2 would probably be ideal. Unfortunately, this is not gonna cut it. Yeah, it's a real bummer. I kind of wish this would have been better, but hey, at least it's a 7,500 milliamp power bank for charging your phone. 5 volt, 2.5 amp output. So, all right, guys. Sorry about that. This is not going to cut it. Do you guys have any recommendations on a hobby grade spot welder that won't break the bank? Obviously, this 3GOA, not going to do it for us. I know my K-Weld will definitely do the job. Let me know if you guys have anything that you purchased that works really well. And, put it down in the video description. Let me know. Do you guys want to see me build like a 6S flight pack out of 18650s with a spot welder instead of soldering it? Let me know, put in the video comments, and we'll see if we can get around to that. All right, guys. Thanks for stopping by. If you want to check this out, links down in the doobly-doo. We'll see you next time. Stay positive.